Welcome to the Kandis Show. Today I had the privilege of talking to another business owner in Central Phoenix, Keith Shanks. He owns Rott'n'grapes, a wine bistro uptown and downtown. And we talked about his wine bistro and business and the best pizza in town. Keith, thanks so much for coming on to the Kandis Show. I'm just excited to share with people that it's literally one of my, you own Rott'n'grapes.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite places in town. You know what, Keith, I have this rotation, right? Because I don't really cook at home. So I got these several places and you're like, Rott'n'grapes is at the top of my rotation.
Oh, I truly appreciate that. It means a ton, really does. So it's very important that that you identify us in that, in as we're in your rotation anyway.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. There's so many great restaurants and bistros and little pubs and, there's a lot of things out there that are available. And
well, Central Phoenix that's why I love this place, really, because there are so many places for, people like me who don't really cook, just to kind of hit up. And, but when you work until, sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, the last thing I'm going to do is go home, get groceries, and make a meal and then clean up. No.
Yeah.
I want to go and relax, right? So I first started coming to the Rott'n'grapes Uptown. Mm-hmm. And then somehow I had followed you guys on social media and I was like, what? They're opening one downtown. And then when I showed up, like it was much more than just a wine bar.
I know. Even downtown, we have been looking at multiple locations down there for about a year and a half, even prior. So think about when Rott'n'grapes Uptown launched 2.5 years ago. The planning of it was about 3 years ago, but really the launch was 2.5, and then we opened a little over 2 years ago. But even at that point, we were already looking at number 2. You have to do this within your roadmap of a business. You really have to stay focused on making sure that one's successful, it's stabilized, and then where you're going to pull your next trigger. And evaluating the market, see what's working with other organizations, see what's working within yourself, and then pivot as you need to. And that's exactly what we did. Obviously, Roro is much more different than Uptown. Uptown's that little small bistro, a lot of wine, a lot of beer, some small plates, about 20 items on the food. But Roro was like the different experience. It's full menu. It's, that lunch, dinner, brunch. It's a much bigger space. It's what we wanted to bring into Rott'n'grapes, the experience. And obviously, we've already been looking at a third location.
No way.
We have. You have to.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of dying to know. Are you trying to stay in the Central Phoenix, or are you trying to expand throughout the valley?
I'm going to stay in the valley.
Okay. Okay.
But no, the cool thing about, and this is, my wife and I, as we brainstorm and we build this model out with our chef, too, from Roro and our GM, run a lot of stuff by these guys as well. They're industry experts. They've been in their craft for a long time. I mean, the concept, Patty and I, obviously we're day-to-day operations of Rott'n'grapes as well, but the engine around Rott'n'grapes is how you operate. And you can't just do it. You can't do it thinking that you are the one that's executing. It's your team that's executing for you. 30 employees at Roro. I have 5 or 6 at Uptown that help us manage the operations side of that. They're intunely aware with what we're trying to accomplish, and they're very much part of our team. They want us to be successful because if we're successful, obviously they're successful too, and vice versa. But I've got this silly roadmap plan that in 5 years or 4 years, actually, out before 2024, I'd like to have 5 locations within the valley. Only the valley, though I've said before, I'd love to go to Texas.
Never say never.
The Dallas area. But, I think it's very important to stay in tune with your business model and that concept. Obviously, in the valley, we can do that. So I'd love to hit without disclosing areas because then I kind of give my mind, though I talk about it all the time, I give a competitive advantage away. But there are certain areas of the valley you just have to continue to watch. We obviously need the market to stay strong from an economic perspective because that's what encourages people, to get out and spend their money and
never cook at home,
never
that
cook
kind of
at
stuff.
home and get that value. There are certain areas that you have to be in. So yeah, we're already looking at 3. Actually, I already know where 3, 4, and 5 are going. I'm not looking at locations for 4 and 5.
Yeah. Well, it's very, I mean, it's a great concept. I love the food.
Yeah.
And the service, you go in there, you get, like, they're wonderful. Your staff. And so I think it's really a reflection of you guys, you and Patty. And so Patty's your wife. You guys are business partners.
Sure.
I'm kind of curious about that whole aspect. You know, I haven't always been in real estate, and I had a business partner at one point, and it ended badly, and we were best friends before. And so I think that it's an interesting dynamic, like husband and wife. You think about it would be like the perfect relationship. And so I'm kind of curious, is that the case where it's like it makes things easier? Because you're like, but then I'm like, man, do you guys ever stop talking about it? You're like, okay, no restaurant talk, no business talk.
Yeah, it's so funny. I even said that last night, not to her, but to a vendor that was actually at one of our distributors that was actually at Roro. And I sat down with them and I said, guys, all right, I'm business talked out, okay? So no more selling stuff. Let's talk about you guys. Let's talk about let's wedge a relationship, a friendship here. Set business aside, because I think that's what cultivates a growth in relationships, is getting to know each other personally as opposed to just business all the time. So Patty and I, actually, we don't talk business all the time. And I'll throw this out at Patty. Patty's the one that launched the idea of Rott'n'grapes. It wasn't me. I've done multiple startup companies, either help people do their startup companies. I have my own little small startup companies. I have investments with companies as well. Much of that on the healthcare side. But Patty was the one that says, I'm ready to launch this bistro thing, this wine thing. You know, about 10 years ago, we were touring around Italy, and we were like, oh my God, there's so many great little local places here. How can we bring that or incorporate that in our lives when we do another venture? And so, 3 years ago, Patty said, I'm ready to just do something now different. And I said, well, let's go back to what we talked about when we were in Italy. And sure enough, the madness started taking over. I'm the strategist around a lot of things that we do, meaning from a business perspective. I write the plans. I look at, what the roadmaps look like. And I've learned that from other successful entrepreneurs to build successful models. And we just started doing it. I identified 8 locations for the Uptown. Uptown's where we started, but I looked at 8 other locations. And from there, it was just, I found that one ideal one I thought it'd be kind of cool, and went back to Patty and I pitched it to her, and she's like, that makes sense, So Landmark Tower, we're in the condominium just below Landmark. I don't know, about 250 units, something like that. I wanted that inner urban type feel, because Patty and I really enjoy New York, Chicago.
Fun, yeah, where you can just come down, walk, eat,
very simple,
drink.
Very simple. So I started looking at that. I'm like, perfect. So then I started looking at what's going on in the city, what's going on around us, right? Because obviously I can build it, but people have to come to you, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And so zoning was a big hot topic 3 years ago, right there in Uptown, where they were going to do more expansion. So BMO Bank, that sits on the corner of Central and Camelback, that's taken forever. By the way, they've started renovating it. It's almost completely gutted. And they're going to convert that to, I've heard, apartments or condos, but then they're going to make something out of it,
Yeah.
So that's great, because that's walk-in traffic.
Yes,
and then right next to Landmark, over next to Pearson Street, and even on the southwest corner of Camelback and Central, across from BMO Bank, that lot, at some point, something's going to be built in, I think, 2020. But
Fun.
So think of all these new apartments and condos and walking traffic. When you own, restaurants, and all restaurant owners and bar owners think this way, okay? We serve alcohol, so we have a responsibility to the public. So it's always better if someone can walk to us than drive, right?
Yes.
And that's what we saw that in the, so it's been dragging to that organic growth, that zoning. In a couple of more years, I think Uptown's really going to be popping a little bit more than what it is right now. It does very well.
Yeah, it does well. I love it up there.
I just love that. Our parking's awful around Landmark Tower.
That is hard.
Yeah. So
you got better parking downtown.
But the rail's close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you can take the rail,
jump on the rail. Yeah.
It's pretty easy to get from downtown to Uptown.
So what happens when you guys work all day, then you come home, I mean, do you guys have rules like no business talk after
I know
7:30?
You asked that question. I went
okay.
I went to like left
That's
field
what
on
happens
that one.
when you're an entrepreneur. Your mind goes on something and you're down a rabbit hole.
We're really good partners in the fact that it's the business. Obviously, our relationship comes first, but the business is part of our relationship at the same time. We strategize a ton. We don't have a lot of indifferences in how we think because, Patty, I was sharing with you earlier, I forgot to put this on the calendar. And so Patty and I, there's a divide and conquer concept that we have. Patty has a background in graphic design. So she's built websites, built brands. I mean, technically, she's pretty sound in what she does, and she manages that aspect for our business. And I manage more the once again, the growth strategies, the business model concepts, and all of that. But outside of that, I mean, we do come together even with our other team members, and we are constantly communicating and talking and being transparent about what's going to drive the success of this. So Patty's very focused in the business side, obviously with the relationship side as well.
I think it would be hard to not be inspired by one another. When you're together, if you're business partners and married, it'd be a constant. I think it would just weave itself in.
Yeah,
and like you said, it is a part of the relationship.
It is.
Right?
Patty is a very strong, independent woman too. And when you have that in a partnership, it does, believe me, there are days that I feel really guilty because I've been away for the entire day or the week, though I'm home or that I'm around. And, she's super focused on what she's doing as well. She really believes in the success as well. And so it works very well for us. It really does.
Nice.
Believe me, I could give more. I need to get more. But, I know my wife, and I know, just the strength that she has. I don't know if I could pull it off with anyone else, quite frankly. I really, or she would probably even say the same thing.
That's amazing.
She probably wouldn't know if she could pull it off with anyone else either. So.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Have you always been an entrepreneur?
No, not at all. Wow.
Oh.
So no, I've always had that mindset of an entrepreneur. Just from the early age, I was just always trying to be really creative in how I could make money when I was a kid. Just the things. I came from a lower middle class family in Texas. It just, when you feel like everything that you've ever worked for was pretty much what you did. Your parents were always there, always available, could give you whatever they could. But at the end of the day, it was still pretty tough.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was a labor guy. My mom more administrative, did hair. I mean, whatever paid the bills, that's what they did. But they taught us very early. I mean, work hard for what you earn, and that's what we do right now. So I was in the military for 15 years. I was a naval officer, and
wow,
I that helped. Honestly, the mindset of how I grew up, combined with the structure that the military gave me, because I think I probably was a little brattish at the same time growing up.
No wonder we're friends.
A little selfish, probably. But then the military really helped ground and really got me organized and really helped me understand other people too.
Yeah.
That I wasn't the center person in the room, right? And then from there, it was. The sky was the limit. I got out. I went into healthcare. I've been doing that for such a long time.
And was that the corporate side of healthcare?
It was. I got it. There was a guy that just says, "Hey, listen, we like to hire individuals that came from the military. We love the structure. We love the mission focus. We love the problem solving." That was my entry into healthcare. I could do all of that stuff because that's what you're doing when you're in the service. Okay, and when I'm out, when I was an officer, my pipeline was to become a captain of a ship. So it was always navigation, engineering, weaponry systems, fighting a war from a ship. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But really long hours away from the family. My last deployment was like 7-8 months, I think, on a carrier.
Oh, gosh.
But
look how all that
it does.
Transferred.
It totally does.
Into what you're doing now.
I think everything in life transfers into something, though.
I do too.
It's they're tools in your toolbox that make you successful. Are you going to fight it or are you going to embrace it and make it part of who you are and build off of it? So, and that's what I think I've done.
I talked to the girls from Elevate, which is next door to you, right? Elevate Yoga and Wellness.
Yeah.
We talked about that exact same thing because they both had corporate backgrounds and how that really transfers and how things that we do in life, sometimes we question, like, why am I here? And yet later on you figure out the reason. You're like, oh, this is why I had to go through this, even though it was, challenging or I didn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
But it gets us to where we're going, right?
It does,
And then it
totally
shows
does.
up
Totally
and prepares
does.
us later for life.
Yeah, no,
Which is
I
cool.
would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, good. I love your mindset too. I think that's when we, started talking, I was like, we have the same mindset. Like we just connected on that level, and it's inspiring.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Who's been most influential in your life, would you say?
Wow, there's so many, and the reason I say that is because in every step of my life and or my career progression, I've always identified with mentors. I think they're the catalyst that allow you to evolve as a person, okay?
Right.
And so I've had so many. I mean, whether if it's just starting out with the strength of my mom and my dad and just, the courage of my dad who adopted me too.
Aww.
So he was my stepdad, but he embraced. I took his name. I mean, great guy. Still talk to him every day, almost every day. Probably not enough though. On it, he's getting a little in age though, but he's kind of a feisty old Texas. I'm not going to call him a redneck, but yeah, he's kind of a redneck. But he's, the inspiration, and you just see that. And just through my career, I probably had, 10, 12 mentors while in the military. Outside of the military, just anyone that I felt like had a good, strong work ethic, but at the same time, mentored and or coached you into being a better person. I remember one guy that I worked for back in the day. He told me when I was, and by the way, the worst thing is to ever, in working for a company is being fired by a company, right? So I've been fired by maybe a couple. But one guy I remember telling me during my exit interview, he says,
my exit interview. I love that word.
He said, sometimes did you ever think about maybe some jobs just aren't the right job for you? And it kind of resonated because I'd never heard that before, right? And I thought I could just accomplish anything. You give me a job, I can take it on, Yeah. I think I was smart enough to do that, piece cake. But so it's that kind of feedback, and honestly, I incorporate that, what I've learned over the years from other business minded people and incorporate that into my business model. I really take accountability as number one, right? I always tell, I don't know how I tell my people, the individuals that work for us, that are part of our team, that are part of our success, I always share with them that you're 51, I'm 49, meaning percentage. Yeah. Because if you're successful, you're that 51% that made you successful. But if you fail, you're that 51% that made you fail. So I'm always a 49%. So I'm a tool in your toolbox. It's going to make you successful, or that you're probably going to say that caused you to fail. So know that there's a partnership here, but you have to be accountable for your own actions and derive your own success. And by the way, if you're here 20 years from now, that's great. I don't want you to be. I would rather that you've grown and evolved and you've gone off and done your own thing. But if it's that your goal is to be here, that's great. I welcome you with open arms.
That's kind of an interesting concept. I was just about to ask you, like, as a business owner and the owner of Rott'n'grapes, what kind of impact do you want to leave in the community? And maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, legacies, that kind of ties in with the legacy. I really don't have a legacy in mind. I live for what I live for now, and that's being happy. I love the successful side of it, being around people that want to be around me as well. But if ever I leave something, I'm really not concerned with the opinions or making some something profound that people would remember me by. I don't know. It's weird.
I guess I don't mean it necessarily like that, but like just being in business and owning a business in, downtown, uptown, Phoenix, like how, obviously there's a reason why you're like in a people business, so I guess is there something that you want to leave in the community, like some kind of impact, like?
Well, I think about from a business perspective, I do think of it in this terms. obviously for the business to be successful, nothing. It's really not about me. It is about the business per se. But for the business to be successful, I think the core of it is that we want to serve something really great in quality, right? That brings people back. So good food, good beverages, a good experience, but at the same time, excellent service. Okay, the service is really a byproduct of your success too. And then probably the third element would be the reputation management side of it as well, because there's a control aspect that you need to have, because social media will take over in many ways, whether socially, physically, socially, or socially when someone's behind a computer and they review about you, okay, positive or negative. It's very much the strength of your business. And what I do recognize, especially on the social side, is that if you look at rank structures like on Yelp or Google or any one of these apps, okay, anyone that ranks like a 3.5 star or less, pretty consistent. You've had some service-related issues or you've had some food-related issues. So reputation management is good. So what do I like to? I just like to leave that experience that keeps people wanting to come back. That's what it's about. So if it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth Rott'n'grapes, I want to kind of make it a Rott'n'grape experience. And so the other thing we've talked about is maybe even changing the menus up at each location as well. So why make it always? The wine will always be there, right?
Yes.
We can't live.
So like, why go to downtown versus uptown? Well.
That's why.
I'll tell you why. Should I tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
Because the pizza is amazing downtown.
I know, my chef is killing it.
He's crushing it.
Yeah.
The mac and cheese too, but no, the pizza, seriously. I'm going to make a pretty bold statement, Keith, that hands down, I think it's the best pizza in town.
Wow. That's you, Chef Chris.
And I eat a ton of pizza. I looked up there and I was like, dude, if I have one more pizza this week.
I had pizza last night. Oh, it's so good. It really is.
It's the best pizza, the crust. I don't know what it is about that crust, but it's just like the perfect soft, but yet, I don't know.
Yeah,
Amazing.
there's some articles written out there about how Chris does his pizza. And it's a blend of 3 different flours.
Oh, see?
And that's something that allows it to rise. So he really took his concept and just, he perfected it. And I think he's like me in some cases. He's like the greyhound chasing the rabbit around the track, right?
Okay.
So he's always looking for that evolution to making sure that it becomes the next best, right?
Yep.
Yeah, same way. He took his expertise in the kitchen and took the equipment that I bought him, right? Because I didn't,
which wasn't up to the standard, I'm sure of it, right?
It is, but it's still though. I mean, there are multiple ways that you can cook pizza too. So
yes.
With this was a high-powered convection oven, but Chris has cooked out of multiple ovens, but he just really fine-tuned with the equipment that we had in the space. Here's what you didn't know about Chris is that Chris actually consulted with me first and wrote the menu for Rott'n'grapes before he even came on board full time. So he came from another large organization in the Valley, went independent, and then I was able to lure him out of the independency to help us drive the vision in the kitchen. And he's done everything that we've ever asked him to do, and he's taught us so much more about in running the business as well.
Yeah,
so
he's nailing it.
He really is.
For
and it's
sure.
just not the pizza. You talked about the mac and cheese. The arancini is so good.
I've yet to try it. I can't. The
New York strip is so good.
Well,
So
I just when I get with
brunch.
certain menus, you go like, I can't get past this. I can't get off of it to order something else because I'm just. So I did order the burger the other night.
Yeah, did you like it?
It was amazing.
It is.
But I still ordered a pizza.
The burger though. This is my own food critic, right?
Yeah.
Like I love the burger too. All of the flavors
So good.
that are in it. It just falls apart though in my hand though because I think the onions kind of take over, right? So but still though. It doesn't mean that I just don't grab my fork and start it.
You just work it out.
Just work it out.
It doesn't matter
because
as long as
it's
it
so
tastes good.
The quality is so good. I remember reading a review that someone says, the burger, fell apart in their hand, and I go, I've experienced that too. But I go, man, but
that's when you write back on Yelp.
I don't complain about that. I'm like,
so what?
I'm going to eat it anyway because it's so good.
It was so
I didn't
good.
go there to have a Christine burger in my hand where I could just eat it perfectly.
Yeah, it's a burger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
so
it's
good.
It's really awesome though. I mean,
what a fun journey that you've been on.
It has. It has been so far.
Well,
I think it's like the calm before the storm. It's we're continuing to evolve as an organization, and I'm looking forward to like that next level. That next third, the fourth, the fifth.
Well, speaking of storms, talk to me about challenges in business. What's been the biggest challenge that you've encountered and overcome, and what'd you really learn from it?
I think in this particular business model, it's having key relationships on the financing side, because restaurants they fail so often, and so you can just imagine the mindset of an investor not wanting to invest in somebody that that only has 2 locations, right?
Doesn't have a long track record.
To me, that's probably been one aspect that I really try to be super focused on, and I've had people approach me about, I'd love to invest and I'd love to do this and do that with you, but so that's probably one that I think that keeps me up at night. As I talked about earlier, the reputation management's critical in making sure that you can always deliver, meet or exceed the expectations of your patrons that come into your restaurant. So creating that right experience, and we still continue. There's only so much you can do when you launch a new restaurant or a new concept at one time. I mean, we do a lot of things over at Uptown that we still don't do at Roro because the concept is so different. But we're trying to incorporate, for example,
like
Trivia Tuesday, right? So I want to bring trivia to Roro, but where are we going to host it? We're going to do it up in the mezzanine, or we're going to do it down in the speakeasy.
We didn't even get there yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. Let's talk about it. We're moving into it now.
But just bringing more to it. The wine club is successful at Uptown. We want to bring the wine club to Roro, and just once again, we want to incorporate ourselves into the community right here.
Well, we better tell people what Row is.
Yeah, it stands for Roosevelt Row.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone knows. I mean, I know but our listeners maybe.
That's true, though, because I did have somebody the other day go, I don't know what Row means. I don't know what Uptown means. Yeah. She was actually mad at me because she went to the wrong location, so I was trying to help out. She goes, I don't know what Row means. I go, God, I'm going to walk away from this one. So.
Well, okay, yeah, so... I mean, I was at the downtown Row.
Okay.
I can't say that very well.
No.
Okay. And before you even have the speakeasy built out, you took me down for a tour. And so how cool is that it has that place where you can have that?
Yeah. It is an awesome little spot. We had to rent it out last night for a corporate group that wanted to do some training.
Oh, really?
So they ordered food. They ordered, beverages, adult beverages, or soda, or it was something.
Yeah. Well, that's fun.
It was good, though. It was a good experience for them. They plugged into our TV down there, and they ran their PowerPoint presentation off of it, and they just had a great education. Yeah.
How many people can fit down there?
I'm probably comfortable with about 40.
Okay.
Capacity 50.
Yeah.
But 50 is too many. Seating 31.
Okay.
Yeah, but some people are going to want to stand around and always interact.
Yeah. What a fun little spot.
It is.
Open on the weekends, right?
Open on the weekends. It'll continue to evolve as well once the word gets out a little bit more. We have purposely not done a ton of marketing around it. It's been more of the word of mouth, and
that's kind of fun when it organically.
Yeah, and we're still figuring out if even the name that we have for it right now, if it's the right fit. We've talked about maybe rebranding already. Yeah, so it's called the Onyx, and Onyx is one of our Rotties, right?
Yeah. Rott'n'grapes.
It's our identification, right? Rott'n'grapes. She's a docile, wonderful 7-year-old Rottie that we have. We rescued her 4 years ago. But, we want to make sure that the name really identifies the space, too. And I think some people maybe won't quite get it. So it's just...
I don't know. Onyx, you think like dark, speakeasy, you think dark. So I don't know. It fits for me.
Yeah, it does. But, I went to the historical preservation group with the city of Phoenix, and I asked for some more information about the building because it's really good to get the history of the building so you can really build that brand around what you're trying to accomplish. And I got some information back, but it really wasn't that helpful. It's because it gave me like back in 1925 when they opened the building, but it really didn't tell me the history from 25 to now. It's been kind of maybe for the longest time it was a little market store. I have no idea, but it really didn't.
No one really knew?
So when I first started building the space out, I had one of the community neighbors say, the reason why they called that building the Gold Spot building is because they used to store gold in your basement.
Get out.
And I said, really? That makes sense. But then as I started investigating this a little bit more, no one's ever heard of that.
No one can corroborate the story.
But I think it's a great story, right?
I think you just use it and roll with it. I think it's kind of cool.
We were thinking about rebranding it called the Vault. The Vault.
Oh,
and maybe change the door to it and incorporate a little bit more of the vault concept into it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they did store gold, and because there's not enough historical information out there, maybe she was around back in the day when they were storing the gold too. I have no idea, but
oh man,
I really grabbed onto that. So
okay,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I like the vault. That's fun.
Yeah. No, it is kind of cool.
Yeah,
it is kind of cool. We wouldn't change anything related to the onyx right now.
Yeah,
per se. We would even leave onyx on the door, quite frankly, but because it's part of Rott'n'grapes, right?
Yeah.
But if whatever connects with people, that's what it's about. That's how sometimes the experience has to start with them to embracing someone else's experience as well.
Of course.
So,
well, let's talk about personal. What do you want to share? Like we've always just kind of talked about, business a lot.
I thought we did talk a little about personal.
We did.
Just kind of where we grew up and stuff like
that.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma. You grew up in Texas.
I know, exactly. That's why Texas hasn't fallen off into the Gulf of Mexico because
You're
Oklahoma
holding
sucks,
on.
right?
You know what we say? That's kind of how it is. But you know what we tease around too? Oh, like I'm from this little place called, it's North Texas. Oklahoma.
Yeah. Exactly.
Essentially, right? I mean, I don't know why there's such a divide between Oklahoma and
So
Texas.
The best thing that ever came out of Oklahoma.
I love Texans.
And actually, the best thing that ever came out of Texas was, or actually came out of Oklahoma was from Texas, and that was the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, right?
Oh, geez.
Right.
Now you're going to take it down.
He went to OU, but he's from Austin, Texas. I mean,
I'm so bad. I don't follow sports.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. I just got like a...
He's the next sensation right now in the NFL. He's taken Cleveland's won 0 games, and they've won 5 this year just because of him. So he's a pretty awesome quarterback, though.
Well, there we go.
There we go. That's pretty personal.
Yeah, totally. Football.
Exactly. All right. So what route do you want to go?
I don't care. Yeah, let's talk about it. What do you got?
So what are you doing right now? Probably
turned it on me. No, this is about
because you launched this 3 months ago, and
I just wanted
this is cool stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to be a platform for people that I'm in business with to just give support back. So that was really the main vision behind the Kandis show, and just I don't know. I think it's fun to talk to other people who share my mindset too. Like I enjoy it.
I see the opposite. I see it's that of what you're doing. I think it's very beneficial, and I think it is going to make you successful because I think you're an influencer as well, and being a positive influence. To help people in the community, I think it's extremely important. Remember I told you earlier that in 2019, though I never really have, to me it's the roadmap, but I never really have, New Year's resolutions or anything like that. If I want to start that, if I wanted to stop eating pizza and stop drinking wine and beer, I would do that tomorrow. But that's not going to happen anytime soon, and I'm definitely not going to let January 1st do that. But I want to do more in community involvement, community development. I just have to find that time in the day when I'm running the business and I have all of these things on my checklist to then do that. There are a lot of people around me, though, that do that, and they do it very well, and that inspires me. I've got other mentors, right?
Well, I was going to ask you, where do you go for business advice?
Oh, my God. I ask a ton of people about, and in the industry as well. Dana Mule, that is the owner of Hula's. I annoy him all the time.
I annoy him.
I do. I mean, I'm blowing him up with text messages or just calling him, just gaining more insight about how I can be more efficient and be a better owner. I mean, he comes from a pretty extensive background, and he's been very successful at Hula's as well. Yeah. He's one that I've turned to. Q, that owns one of the owners of the dressing room, another one. He's the one that's always, that's always had a leaning hand towards in helping out as well. Takes my call.
Aw.
I mean, immediately, and I think when you kind of get in that circle, we respond to each other very quickly too.
Yeah.
We just, if that text message or that call comes in, I'm stopping when I do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go, and I'm going to respond.
Isn't that nice? You guys have
It
that
is.
little tight-knit community.
It is, and I want to do more things with those guys as well. But it's good to have people like that care about industry. Industry's first before their own business model, because they know by lending that helping hand, it's still going to make
Come
them
back,
successful. Right? It really does. It always comes back. I'm the mindset as well. The one thing that I always believe in too is that you mean what you say and say what you mean. So if you say, call me anytime you need something,
You better mean it.
that's right. There are a lot of people out there that don't do that, and they tick me off more than anyone. I think it's just, it defines their character. They're very much talk and not about about meaning what they say.
I think character is not about what comes out. It's about your actions.
Sure, it totally is.
Look at a man's actions, it'll tell you it's a character.
Or a woman.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, you know how they. But back to that community thing. You know what? 2019 for me is going to be all about service and giving back. I've already decided that's what my 2019 is about. It sounds like you're about the same.
It is. It's just carving out that time. So I've got a checklist of things on my phone right now that I look at every day. Some I procrastinate on, some that because I just I kind of rank it ABC priority type.
Yeah. Well, how do you? I guess that's another challenge that I face in business and entrepreneurship about. I guess it really boils down to the calendar, which I hate being defined by my calendar and a time. But if you don't, how else do you get it all in?
Yeah, you know that the checklist will be there tomorrow. That's one thing that I always remember, and I do the prioritize of it. There are certain things that are extremely important that you need to take care of, and there's some that you just, once again, you could delegate it out. It might cost you money to do that, or it's.
But if you do, then if you delegate it out, then you're able to move something else
possibly
on the lower on the list up.
Yeah.
To higher importance.
It's so funny is I feel like I'll always have that list, right? It's that Greyhound effect that I sometimes I have.
I know.
I could easily catch it. So
you can?
Yeah. I just have to it's that business mindset you have to have. It's that mission accomplished, that focus to be able to do that. For some reason I just go, it's going to be there tomorrow. I'm just going to rest my eyes. Yesterday was probably the longest day I've ever had.
Oh gosh.
And since I've been running Row, or since we bought Row. I just up at 5. I didn't get to bed until 12:30 last night. Yeah. I was just run ragged.
But that's the
life.
I
was feeling sick. I thought, oh my God, this is a calm. I was texting Patty going, I'm not feeling good. So when I come home, she's got all these concoctions made up. She's pouring drugs down me, like homeopathic type stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got a good night's sleep, and
now you're back at it.
I don't feel sick at all. I think some of it was stirred around a sinus infection or some of the allergies. I picked up something yesterday, I think. So anyway.
I'm curious, do you have most successful business owners and people that I know, I find that they have kind of a morning routine. So I'm curious, do you?
Absolutely.
Do you mind sharing?
It's not even about business at all.
Right. Most of the time it's not. Right.
I read a ton in the morning. Read a lot. I want to, and Patty comes in there, I'm like, I'm reading, having my moment, I'm reading. No, really in the morning, it's pretty simple. To me, that routine is, I turn the computer on, I just see what, 8, 10 emails that might catch my attention. I just look at them, and then I don't do anything, no action around them, and then immediately go make coffee. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, I'm right there with you.
Got the coffee going. I got the dogs surrounding me. I got Onyx and Dochetta right there. So, because after coffee, it's time to feed because they're like on a routine as well. So they know when it's that Pablo's dog effect, right? So they know that it's time to eat when the coffee makers are going. So I feed them. Right after they eat, we go throw the ball. We're out for about 10, 15 minutes in the yard. And Onyx is kind of crazy about the ball. We back and forth, the tennis ball. Dochetta's just kind of wandering aimlessly around the yard, eating weeds and just
awesome.
Just crazy. That's what she's still kind of a puppy. She's 20 months old. I get her actively involved. She loves to still play. She loves to wrestle a lot as well. So that's the other thing that it's immediately she's like attacking me and like wants to play, getting feisty. And so then we go back in, sit down, I give them another treat because we always have to treat after we throw the ball because they've done so well.
Right. Reward.
Exactly, reward. And then I sit down and I start reading. And I read for probably about an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes it extends a little bit longer than that. And then during that process, something might come in. I might pause and check out an email or adjust something, and then pretty much my day's starting from right there.
What do you read?
On the work side. It's more current event stuff than anything else. So it's not novels of any sort. It's, to me, current events is just part of your growth as a person and part of, obviously, it allows you to make good decisions. I mean, I really pay attention to what's going on in the marketplace, in the stock market as well. You have to, from a finance perspective. I need to make sure that it's so, ebbs and flows and it's all over the place. But, a strong market, will help define success. And when the market crashes again, if it ever does, I hope it doesn't. I hope we never have a housing market crash. But to admit, the one that crashed last time was housing, but it was banking.
Yeah.
So if that's regulated now,
it is,
I think probably the worst, crash that we could ever had would be something that would be natural disaster related than anything else.
True.
So, so I'd like read little things that really that make me think, because I think knowledge is power, and that's
if you use it.
If you use it, right. But it's good to have it stored too.
I
read a lot of I read a lot of political stuff as well, because I want to know both sides and what people are doing locally as well as federally. The whole, the stuff that goes on with the president doesn't really have any big impact on my business. If anything, it probably helps because it allows, from a federal perspective, I don't deal with the federal government.
No.
Okay? Everything's local, state and local. Every year when we file our taxes, I do.
Right.
So I'm hoping that doesn't hurt our business. But outside of that, there's really no impact with what goes on there. So I really do stay focused on that. And who else I can connect with throughout the day as well. And really, if there's somebody new that, especially I read a lot of the local news and what I can do and take away the spins, because there's always a spin on someone's opinion. I try to eliminate that, and I really try to focus on how would that be applicable to our business and how would it be applicable to our personnel too.
Yeah.
So every day read.
Nice. I like it. I do too.
Yeah.
Except I don't really read. I just listen, but it's the same.
It's good.
It's the same. Audible.
You're still learning.
I'm in the car a lot, so I have to make use of that time.
Yeah.
I don't really have the leisure being able to sit around that easily. I just have one last question for you.
Yeah.
I'm just, if you could leave like one piece of advice for, our people that are tuning in, watching this podcast, what would you say to them about anything, about life, about business, about personal?
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
That's a tough one. I know. I should have prepared you.
It's not because it's something that I think about all the time. I share this with my employees as well. Okay, so it's very difficult for me to kind of withhold certain things.
Okay.
And everything does come down to the accountability. But what I would recommend is that when it comes to you as an individual, you need to make sure that you put yourself first. Okay. I know there's a circle within you. I mean, everyone has some type of religious belief in some perspective. Have some faith in something, okay? I mean, I'm a Christian, so that's my God. God's extremely important to me. My family is extremely important to me. Obviously, my wife and my kids are at the highest echelon. But the business is as well. It ranks up there too. Having that close connection with who you are first will determine who you become in the future. So don't diminish, don't feel like that you have to continue to give. Make sure that you put yourself first, and then there's that core around you that will make you successful, getting back to the 51-49 in some cases. But put yourself first. I think you're going to be happier in life if you do that and you really focus on your goals and objectives. And the reason where all of this really came from is as I have 3 boys, okay? I have a 27, 25, and a 16. And as watching them grow up, I always looked at what consumed them, right? And so trying to mentor them to be, as a father, to being, the man that they're going to be in the future is extremely important. And by doing the right thing, but having a center core focus of them, because they would run off and have, girlfriends and bad relationships. And like, there are 1,000 women that are right for you in this world. Why are you so fickle on this one particular relationship? Okay. And so I started doing that just from a fatherly love more than anything else.
Right.
And then as I just started putting that together, it just helped me define, if I were in their shoes, what would I want? And so I said, this is what I would be. It would be, you're the core focus, okay? A lot of people don't do that. And that's why they're not where they want to be. There are people that are leaders and there are people that are followers, and we need everyone. Mm-hmm. We need leaders and followers, but I think we have, everyone wants to be a leader, but I think we have too many followers, and it does start with them putting themselves first. If they can do that, not in the right way, not the wrong way, right?
Well, I think even if you're a follower, you still need to love yourself.
Yeah,
and I
totally
think that's so interesting, because I don't really think I started doing that until later in life. I always put everybody else first. And it's been a lesson that I keep continuing to learn, to be honest. So I think that's really interesting that you say that. And it's true. You have to love yourself before you can really love others unconditionally.
Yep, it's true.
So cool.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing me in.
Yeah. Well,
and I would say I hope to see you tonight and tomorrow. And
actually,
Saturday,
I'm probably going to come
Sunday.
tonight. I'm probably going to be there at the bar, getting a pizza.
Not at the bar, at the restaurant.
Oh, sorry. Well, I sit at the bar.
That's the other thing.
I'm like a sitter at the bar kind of person.
Because we are, I'm trying to get away from that.
The bar.
Of the identification, the identity of Rott'n'grapes, which it really is about our love for wine and our love for our Rotties. But we because we started out as a wine and beer bar.
Yeah.
Now people, we kind of get that label, and we're really trying to change that. I mean, we're a wine. We definitely lead with wine by far. So we probably are. We're a restaurant, but a wine bistro as well.
Bistro.
We have a ton of great beer.
I'm going to be at the bistro. I'm going to be at the bistro.
I know,
drinking wine.
It's all branding. I can't help it, man. It's when
you should have told me before.
No, it's okay. No, it really is fine. It really is, because it every day. I mean, it takes time. We created it. I don't.
It's all
there's
your
nothing
fault.
to complain about.
It's all your fault, Keith.
Yeah.
It's all your fault. Your success.
Yeah.
No, really. Thank you so much. It's. I'm glad to know you. And support you.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, you're welcome. Thanks so much.
All right, cool. Fist bump.
Yeah, I like that. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the Kandis Show today. I hope my conversation with Keith Shanks from Rott'n'grapes left you feeling inspired. Don't forget to check them out on Instagram, ROTTNGRAPES, and be cool. Subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends.